Okay, so we are here today to talk about the moon, the beautiful moon. Historically, this card has only been called the moon in all its different languages, so there's nothing particularly interesting about interpreting the titles. But the Hermetic title's interesting. Yeah. The ruler of Flux and Reflux.
Yeah. There's actually two Hermetic titles for this one. So ruler of Flux and Reflux and the child of the sons of the mighty.
Yeah, so that was interesting to me, the idea child of the sons of the mighty, because we've had daughter of the mighty.
It's like the third generation. It's like the grandchild here. We're getting into the third generation, which I guess makes sense being so low on the tree.
I guess
you've got the mighty ones, and then you've got the sons and daughters of the mighty ones, and then you've got the child of the sons of the mighty ones.
So we had... I remember we said with the emperor that was chief among the mighty. So that's as if that's one generation. And then you have the daughter of the mighty ones, which is the empress.
Yeah.
And then you have the moon, which is the child of the sons of the mighty. And I don't know, maybe there's, something in there about the sort of whole ascent up the tree thing, that the generations start to intermingle. I don't know.
Yeah, it is interesting to me too. I think I think it was in Wang's book, he says something about this path is the creations of the created.
The creations of
So
the
if you think of the child of the sons of the mighty ones, the sons of the mighty ones being the created, and then they create these creations, and these creations are our thoughts and illusions and desires, and you're talking about the necessary thing that we go through. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Cool. That's in Wang?
Yeah.
I didn't bring him down today, but all right, cool. And Flux and Reflux.
Flux and Reflux. That's actually awesome, because what I love about these titles is, you think it's maybe a bunch of pompous Victorian... What's the word? Well, they make everything sound very highfalutin and
Yeah.
But really, it's extremely precise language that they're using here. So you think of the ruler of Flux and Reflux, automatically go, oh yes, the changeability of the moon.
The tides.
They could have said the ruler of the flow, the ruler of the tides, but they chose these words, flux and reflux. So I thought that was really interesting, because the word flux contains lux, light. And what the moon is it's a body that reflects the light of the sun in this cycle of going from light to darkness.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really very precise way of nailing down the change to be associated with that pattern of reflecting the light.
It's interesting to me because, flux back then still had some of its connotations of fever and illness, right? When you have the flux.
Right, yeah.
Or maybe it was, I'm not sure, that might be a gastrointestinal issue. And, of course, we have reflux.
The moon has something to do with the stomach, actually.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and this idea that, there's certainly an idea that the moon in the Thoth deck, in the Crowley version at least, for sure, has this association with illness and pestilence.
And with the menstrual cycle.
And with the menstrual cycle.
The flow, the flux.
Exactly.
So that's interesting, too. So it's really precise language. And that's what I love about all these titles, because every one of them, it sounds like they're just trying to be very, pageant, having some pageantry about it, but it's actually, every title is very precise if you reflect on why did they choose this word.
Yeah. And flux, that's a soldering term as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the thing that flows, right?
Yeah, like quicksilver. Yeah.
It's the thing you use to join other things, which is interesting. Okay. But we'll be seeing lots more of this sort of theme of changeability throughout both cards, I think. All right, so where shall we go next? Should we go ahead and do the astrology?
We could do the astrology, or we could do anything.
Yeah, let's start.
There's lots of symbols in here to talk about.
Yeah, we got to start somewhere. Got to jump in the pool, right?
Right.
So to speak. Okay. So Pisces, right? We're at the end of our zodiacal cycle.
Yes,
Yeah.
the last sign and the last mutable sign.
Sure is.
The most mutable of the mutables.
Exactly. Which is, the thing that allows the year to end and flow away. Pisces, of course, means fish, and we have all kinds of water references in both cards, don't we?
We do. No actual fish, though.
No actual fish, yeah. So we have, the pool in the weight card, which has all kinds of different references, but for one, that could be a reference to Pisces, the watery nature of the sign.
We have water in the Thoth card as well.
We do. So those waves at the bottom of the Thoth card are interesting because they look like waves, but they are also kind of like a brain scan.
Yeah, they're supposed to be the sleep cycle. The delta or phase of the brain. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The dreaming phase, perhaps.
Yeah, which I was surprised to learn that they knew about back then, in 1940 something. Well, I guess 1940 something. So,
yep.
So if it's Pisces, that means we have rulership. Classical rulership is Jupiter.
And modern Neptune.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
I see a lot more Neptune in these cards.
Don't you?
Even though in most of the cards they're using the classical rulers, it seems like they really went with the modern ruler in this example.
I think there's so much emphasis on the sort of dissolution and fantastic elements of Neptune.
Right.
Yeah.
The nebulousness.
Right. And the lack of clarity because, of course, Mercury is in detriment and fall in Pisces because it's an exaltation and rulership in Virgo, the opposite sign. So Mercury does not do well. Mercury's not seeing well.
Yeah.
And nobody's seeing well in this card. And we do also have exaltation of Venus, I think, in 27 Pisces. So not that there are necessarily references to that.
But
wait,
see
there
some
is,
references
actually.
in the Thoth card. The ankhs that the Anubis-like figures are holding. One of them looks like Mercury. The other
one on the left
is supposed to be Venus and Neptune combined somehow, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. So it's as if the planet that's in fall is on the left there, and the ones that are in rulership and exaltation are on the right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because the two figures.
I was going to ask you if you remember what's going on with those.
Well, there's different ways of looking at it. It could be Anubis in his dual form, Anubis of the East and Anubis of the West.
But isn't there some idea that the left-hand figure might be a set figure or something like that?
I have heard that, but I've also seen it as, the double form of Anubis. The two figures, between the ways, guarding the way, the portal. Mm-hmm. But there's another. Now I got it. Well, I have seen in some books that the left figure holding Mercury in detriment is a set figure. Mm-hmm. I think that it could be the other dog or jackal-headed god, Wepwawet.
Oh, really?
Have you heard of that one?
No, haven't.
So that's he opens the way for the sun.
Oh.
And this is the card of the midnight sun, the sun passing through.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that this perhaps, and this figure is often seen with Anubis. You see them together sometimes. Anubis will be the black one and he'll be the gray one. And you see them together. Now these are both similar in color, but...
But what are each of their roles then in that?
Anubis more of the, passageway of the dead, where Wepwawet is more the opener of the way.
I see.
Whatever the differentiation there is, I'm not quite sure, but his role was to protect. He protected Isis while she was giving birth to Horus. They both hold phoenix wands, which is interesting.
They both have little animals at their feet, too.
Right, little dogs.
Little dogs, yeah. One thing that, in terms of the astrology that's interesting, is that there may be this possibly in the Thoth card on the moon itself between the pillars. There's sort of these markings or veils or waves on it, and one of them looks like a backward C, which could be a reference to Jupiter in that it's a kaf, a Hebrew letter kaf. Jupiter, that path is right above the moon. That path goes from Chesed to Netzach, and then the moon's goes from Netzach to Yesod. So that's possible. And the interesting thing about this is that there's like solar and lunar stuff going on in the Thoth card, right?
Well, that makes a lot of sense to me, too, because, the card, Crowley calls it the gateway of resurrection, and he's talking about the resurrection of the sun.
Of the sun. So this idea that the dung beetle carries the sun through the underworld,
right.
through the night.
Khephra carries the sun through the midnight hour, the swallowed sun.
And we see that at the bottom of the card.
There's some evidence that in pre-dynastic Egypt, the Milky Way looked like a figure, and this is said to be Isis or Nuit, actually. Nut or Nut. So at the winter solstice, at the time of, was it sunset? Let's see. Yeah, at the spring equinox at sunset, it was in the position of her head. So there would be the Milky Way, and where the figure looked like she had her arms. You ever see the images of Nut on the inside of a sarcophagus, where instead of seeing her in profile, like arching over, like we see in,
like we usually see her,
right? Like we usually see her. It's a full on facial front, and it was on the inside of the sarcophagus, like mirrored above the mummy inside. So that's what the Milky Way was supposed to look like at one time, like a figure stretched out like this. And so at the spring equinox at sunset, the sunset was right at the level of her head. And at the winter solstice, 9 months later, the pre-dawn sun rose in the area of her
where she would be giving
genitals,
birth.
where she would give birth. So that was
how profound.
It came out that she swallowed the sun and gave birth to the sun both throughout the cycle of the year and every night. That was the passage. And so she swallowed khephra, the beetle, and the sun, and it passed through her body and was born. And you see on the Thoth card. So if you look at those two big black towers and those waves and the sun below, doesn't it look like a woman giving birth?
Oh, it
See
does.
Like those are her knees and her legs, and you're seeing the sun right where it would be coming out if it was a baby's head crowning or something.
Yep.
So you can totally see
full
it.
Dilation.
It's right there.
I will never look at this card again the same way.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
You can't unsee it. Well, so the traditional representation of Nuit from the side, it almost looks like she's in table pose, right?
Yeah, the wheel pose in yoga.
Right. And then and you can see that like on your universe card, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. And where else can we see that? Oh, we can see it on the Eon card in Thoth, I think, as well. I think she's stretched out over.
Yes.
Yeah, in that sort of omega shape.
No.
Is she on your Eon?
On the Rosetta deck, she's like that,
okay.
Yes.
Okay, so those are two places where you can see that in tarot. And so the idea is that with the Milky Way, that it was as if you were under that.
Yeah.
Cool. And now it's as if you're looking...
The dome of the sky.
Looking head on at the birth.
Right.
Right, in parents' spouse's eye view. Midwife's eye view.
The sun, the sun figure there, held by the beetle, looking like it's being reborn there. I think of this phase of the solar cycle, so they call it the sun at midnight. When it's hidden, and if you in Liber Resh, the sun at midnight was called the sun in his silence.
That makes sense. Yeah, so astrologically, the 3 decans associated with Pisces, represented by the 8 of Cups, the 9 of Cups, and the 10 of Cups. And they're particularly interesting ones, I think, because the names are different in Crowley versus the Golden Dawn. So instead, like for the 8 of Cups, he says He calls it indolence, right?
Yeah.
And the Golden Dawn calls it abandoned success, which I think is just so interesting. It's the Saturn in Pisces. So there's this idea. Idea of, with Pisces in general, of returning to the source of dissolving, and whereas Saturn is the lord of boundaries. So there's this like structure versus, dissolution of structure thing happening. Right.
Saturn Neptune thing.
Yeah,
They're very
Saturn versus Neptune.
Opposite forces.
Yeah. And Austin Coppock calls it the labyrinth. So it's like this idea that you're lost in the structure and you're trying to return home.
I could see that. Yeah.
And you can really see that in the weight card. This sort of like leaving behind of the place that that you've become so confused in, and trying to move on towards the light again.
Right.
And also, I think Thoth says something. So this is 7 and 8 of Cups are related in his version, right? It's a Wagnerian thing, a Parsifal thing. He talks about the gardens of Kundry.
Kundry and yep. Klingzor. The Garden of Kundry and the Palace of Klingzor.
Oh, right. And which is which? Klingzor is the 7 of Cups.
Yeah. Yep.
And the Garden of Kundry. So the I sort of think, if I remember the plot correctly in Parsifal, that there's a sorcerer Klingzor and there's a witch Kundry or something like that, and he's basically going from schemes and plots of one to the schemes and plots of the other.
Right.
And
he calls it the opposite and complementary error. these two cards.
Right. So, but it's interesting because both the 7 and the 8 of Cups, although the 7 of Cups is Scorpio and the 8 of Cups is Pisces, they do have that element of sort of seeing things not as they are, right? This element of illusion or fantasy and being lost along the journey.
The 8 of Cups, he says, in the psychopathology of the path, this card is the German measles of Christian mysticism.
Okay, then.
Alrighty then. Tell us how you feel. Somewhere else I read that, I don't know if it was there, that it's the equivalent of, setting up a party and then never inviting anyone or something.
And in the weight card also, you were talking about the eclipse idea, that this was an eclipse of the waning moon in the Thoth card, but in the Thoth moon card, but in the weight 8 of Cups card, you also have something that's supposed to be an eclipse, interestingly enough. So it really sort of underlines that whole dark night of the soul thing.
Right.
And then in the 9 of Cups, we have Jupiter in Pisces.
Happiness
or material happiness in the Golden Dawn version. And I think the idea, also known as the card of wishes, right?
Right.
Yeah, and there's an idea that here's a moment of balance, I guess, where people can make manifest the things
back on
they
the
desire.
middle pillar, the 9.
Yeah. Exactly.
And the 9 being very, being the Yesod, very compatible with the energies of Pisces.
Yeah, and this idea also that there's...
and with Jupiter, it's ruler. So
and with Jupiter, it's ruler.
You can't go wrong with that combination.
Right. There's that, the sort of magical power of the moon in its happy place, and Jupiter as its ruler, and this idea that pretty much anything that you desire can come to you, but be sure what you want, because that doesn't help you.
Be careful what you wish for.
Right. Be careful what you wish for, because it's not going to help you figure out whether it's good for you. And then there's the 10 of Cups, the Mars in Pisces, which is so interesting. It's the satiety in Crowley, but perpetual success in Golden Dawn.
The biggest discrepancy between the weight card and the Crowley card in the 10 of Cups than almost any other card of the deck, I think.
It's pretty intense.
But there is a thread of similarity in the sense, so in the weight card you see the happy family, arms linked under a rainbow, and the fact that he's put the rainbow there, you know how fleeting a rainbow
Exactly.
is. It just doesn't last.
And that's, mutable decan of mutable sign, and
Right,
it's
the
the
10,
very
the
last moment of the
ultimate,
year.
yeah.
Right? When it's Mars, it's that moment going from Mars in Pisces, 10 of Cups, to Mars in Aries 2
right.
of Wands.
Right, the double Mars.
The double Mars
Yep.
thing. And it's like, so you have this energy that allows you to pass out and this energy that allows you to enter. But one way or another, it's not going to last.
Don't cling to it.
Right.
Right.
And I think, to me, the 10 of Cups always has this like overripeness about it and this idea that it's a vision, but it's not reality.
Right. Or it's maybe reality for a moment, or it feels good at the time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's
I can't tell you how
kind of
many
like
times
the Buddhist view. Don't cling to it because that's the way of suffering.
I have so many times seen women in particular get this card and get all excited. It's like, am I going to marry this guy? Are we going to have a happy family? They get the card and they think that means it's all going to work out. And I'm like, no. The reason you're getting this card is because you're projecting so hard that you can see it. But that whenever I see that card in a reading, I actually take it as something of a warning. Don't.
They'd be better off with the Four of Wands or something.
4 of Wands, 10 of Discs,
Right.
Something that's a little more, 4 of Wands could point to the wedding,
Right,
if
right.
not the marriage. 10
Right.
of Discs could point to the legacy.
Right.
But 10 of Cups is, it's
in
a
a illusory paradise.
that's right. It's chasing rainbows, man.
Yep.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that Austin Coppock says that this decan is associated with the goddess Elpis, which means hope in Greek, which is like the last thing that was left in Pandora's box, right? So hope, what could be better than hope? But at the same time,
Hope springs eternal.
you have to have hope. I mean, it's really important to have hope. You can't do without it in your life. You won't get along, but it's not the same thing as having the thing itself.
And the ruler of Mars, Mars isn't really happy being in that last decan of watery Pisces.
Right. Okay, so I made a note to myself about Venus and the 10 of Cups because her degree of exaltation falls in this decan.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe that's a little bright single flash of perfection and beauty, but it's only 1 degree.
Exactly. It's 1 degree. It's not the whole sign.
Yeah.
You have Venus and Mars, and you have everything that goes on with the tension between those two for that decan and that degree of exaltation. But, okay, so we've already touched on the Kabbalah, but we might as well dive all the way in
into the deep murky
pool
of the moon
of Yesod. So in the weight card, you can actually think of that pool at the bottom as Yesod, as the province or sphere of the moon. At the bottom of the tree. You can think of the towers as the pillars of force and form. It's possible to do that. And there's another reference to the Kabbalah in the weight card even, because there are 32 rays on the moon. And 32, of course, is the 10 Sephirot plus the 22 paths. So when you see that reference to 32, that's what that's about. Mm-hmm. And then again, you also have the, it's associated with Hebrew letter Kof, which means the back of the head. So you can kind of make an argument that there's an emphasis on the back of the head in this picture.
Yeah, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. You ever hear the term eyes in back of your head?
Yeah.
It makes me think of that, the whole brainstem there and intuition and having eyes in the back of their
and
head.
On your moon card in Tabula Mundi, you have like a little door there, too.
There's a little door, because I've always thought there's a little door right there at the back of your head that you have to guard very carefully at times.
And the attribute associated with kuf, because all the single letters have these attributes associated with them, is either sleep or laughter, which I think is so interesting. Sleep, of course, is pretty
Sleep
obvious.
Is pretty obvious for this card,
but the idea of laughter, I don't know. Like the idea that you banish with laughter, or the idea that laughter comes with insanity. I'm not really sure where that comes from, but as I was saying, I was showing you in the Sefer Yetzirah, all of these attributions, have a couple of different ways that they get assigned. So the Golden Dawn chose one of them, and so that's why we have the Golden Dawn attribution of sleep, which makes perfect sense. You could also say that the way the moon is looking, in the direction that it's looking, reflects that path.
In the weight card,
yeah. In the weight card, yeah.
One thing, the phases of the moon are different in these two cards, know.
That's true. Well,
Crowley
it could be
definitely
anyway.
Saw this as the waning moon, where it seems like weight didn't so much. But the depiction in the Thoth card is said to be a phase of the moon you can only see during as the waning moon during a partial eclipse.
The exact quote from Crowley is, "The waning moon of witchcraft and abominable deeds,
yes.
Poison, darkness, which is the condition of the rebirth of light."
Yeah, there's a lot of that language of sorcery and taboo in his description. But what I love most about Crowley is he goes on and on about what an abomination this perilous path is. And then at the end, and he says, but how splendid is the adventure.
But how splendid is the adventure. Exactly.
He had a real lust for the explorations of the mind. And I
the
really
weirder, the better.
Admire that about him.
Right. So although we have this, this downward-looking moon in the weight card that could be looking from Netzach to Yesod, and the idea that we have a waning moon in the one and maybe a waxing moon in the other, the waxing moon on the weight card, let's also remember that in the southern hemisphere, it's the other way around. So waxing, waning, take your pick.
Right.
I don't know. I kind of like the idea that there are these competing interpretations of these cards, like the idea that maybe the waxing one is, you can associate that with the more modern interpretation of fertility and intuition and feminine power, and the waning one could be associated with the darkness and the witchcraft and the animal lack of control, kind of.
Well, there's something to the whole, increase things you want to increase and bring forth, and the things you want to banish or release.
Right,
too.
And the idea with the moon, you get to do both depending on the time of the month. And the idea also that, like, with both those interpretations, you get to decide which is positive or which is negative.
Right, because sometimes release is positive.
Yeah. How splendid is the adventure.
Yes, exactly. So we can talk about the yodes. We have lots of yodes floating around in both cards.
Okay, so weight card, we've got, I think it's 15.
Yep, 15.
Yeah.
Which, I thought was interesting because 15, if you think of the 29-day cycle of the moon, half is 14 and a half.
Day
so
15.
roughly 15 is the whole light to darkness cycle.
Right, and day 15 represents the full moon, or
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's half. It's exactly almost.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that.
Half of a cycle.
That's cool. Also, the idea that maybe it could be related to the devil in some form. As perhaps you could think of it as like, the devil's association with the mastery over matter and witchcraft.
And then this is a little obscure, but it occurred to me that it could be a reference to the 15th degree of Freemasonry as well.
What's that?
The 15, which is perseverance in times of adversity and fidelity to obligations and triumph in trials of darkness and light, and that speaks very much to the moon imagery because, this path is all about the kind of dark night where you're in your spiritual progress and you feel like it's hopeless and useless and you lose your energy and it's all confusion and you lose your way, but so you need to persevere through that. This they call it the illusory light that's more deadly than darkness.
Nice. And then we have 9 in the other card, in Crowley's card.
Probably directly a Yesod reference.
So Yesod, the number of Yesod being 9, and also the number of months of gestation, 9, the
Again,
magical
to that
number.
cycle of the birth of the
Exactly.
sun in ancient Egypt.
And Crowley actually describes, yet another thing you won't be able to unlearn, describes these droplets as drops of impure blood, referring to the menstrual cycle.
In his card, he refers to something about Abraham, the covenant of Abraham or something.
He does.
If you look up, what is he talking about there? So that's the whole story about, Abraham and Sarah wanting to have a child and they were too old, basically. And then her fertility was renewed and she became fertile again and they had a child.
I thought the covenant of Abraham had to do with circumcision, which takes place on the 8th day.
That's interesting as well. But there is the thing about Abraham and Sarah, and she's like 90-something years old, and she has a baby.
Right.
So there's something
it's gonna take a miracle.
So is the reference to that menstrual blood in the card that it's waning and going away, the crone phase, or is it also the renewal of that?
It is both right?
At the same time, because it's the moon.
Right. Okay. So anyway.
Well, we could talk about the towers.
Oh, yeah.
Cards.
Those towers are
some stuff to explore, I think.
Yeah, the towers are great. And I love that they're in both cards. And,
yeah.
They're creepy, aren't they?
They are creepy.
I always feel like it's Tolkien, It's like Minas Morgul when you go to Mordor and there are the Dark Towers. That's the one thing.
Well, this card is creepy.
It's just plain creepy in both versions.
And those 2 towers in the Wait card are the same 2 as in the Death card.
Yes!
That's interesting, too.
Right.
So one is, the gates of death and the other is the gates of resurrection, in a sense. But you're on the, I think in the Death card, the towers are on the other side of the river, whereas in this card, you're on the same side as the towers or something like that.
Well, you're almost there.
Right.
Well, also, I think that the Wait card has a sun setting, and that reminds you of that whole, solar journey beneath the towers.
Exactly.
Which is, so...
But I look at both of these cards, they both have a single window at the top.
Yeah.
And you could go, okay, Felix. I think
it was time.
It reminds me of like a prison. So you're locked in this tower with only one window at the top, and you can only look out, and it's the shells of illusions that we build for ourselves.
Yeah.
And even if you look in the Crowley card, I think there's even bars on the windows. If you look really closely.
There are.
So it's the,
definitely
what they call the old gray land where everything's an illusion before you've awakened.
Yeah, those windows, they're like Chex Mix windows. And then that association with death, Scorpio, Pisces, that connection there, they're both water signs going from fixed to mutable.
2 of them. So is that, a separation of the conscious mind and the unconscious mind?
Wouldn't you think so?
2 hemispheres of the brain, this being the back of the head,
Yeah, or they could be like the gates of horn and ivory for sleep.
Like I put in my
like
moon
you did.
card.
Yeah. There's just something so profound about that gateway. More so, I think, than the pillars we see elsewhere. When I see the pillars throughout the majors, I think of them as force and form, mercy and severity, sides of a battery, positive and negative. But this is different.
This is different. They're too similar to be that necessarily.
Right. And there's like a real, I feel like it's as if it's in a different direction, if you know what I mean. It's like instead of like going up the middle pillar.
Almost makes me think of when you see double, that illusion thing, if you're, I think Crowley refers to this card as drunkenness of senses. And, if you've ever gotten that pie-eyed, you've seen double.
Oh, me, never.
It's almost like that.
Well, you know what it looks like to me? It looks like if you're looking at a picture that's intended to be looked at through 3D glasses, and they have those double images.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense for this card.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of double images in the Thoth card, notice how, see where the moon is and see below it, there's the same kind of swirling forms as that are below in the water. It's like it's in a reflection, kind of.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes me think of the magic mirror, which is the weapon of Khephra.
Of Khephra. That's right. Yeah.
Which, that's kind of cool.
That's kind of cool.
It does look like a mirror.
It does look like a mirror. And although the reflection part, the waters, it's interesting. It has those horizontal lines across it, which make it look like water, but also Crowley calls them the graphs of abomination.
The horizontal ones down below.
Yeah.
Yep, the scratches.
Yeah. And it's sort of like it's trying to be crossed out. I don't know. That was such an interesting turn of phrase, and I don't really know what he meant by it.
If the wavy lines are the waveforms of the sleep cycle, and those horizontal scratches, graphs of abomination, maybe that's what causes the nightmares.
Yeah, maybe.
Kind of like the record hitting a scratched place in the mind, going.
So interesting. I would have loved to, there's a lot of things I would have loved to talk to Crowley about, but that's one of them. Oh, and he describes the towers as black towers of nameless mystery, horror, and fear.
Yeah. Yeah, he also says something like the fiery senses balked. The knight on his quest has to rely on the 3 lower senses because the moon has no air. And I think there's a little footnote on I think in the Book of Thoth on this card that reminded me to look up something, and it was talking about the 3 right where it says the knight must rely on the 3 lower senses: touch, taste, and smell. There's a little footnote. Let me see what it says.
Association.
Oh yeah, he says, see the Book of Lies. There's a chapter called Borscht, which, think of the color of borscht is like the red of blood. He's funny in the Book of Lies. He has all these funny titles for things. Anyway, so if you go to the Book of Lies and read that chapter Borscht, which I did, it's all about, the witch moon of blood, and it has 3 paragraphs to it, and then he has his little commentary underneath, and he's talking about that. He says it's how to baffle the 3 characteristics. So he's talking about the Buddhist concepts of anicca, dukkha, and anatta.
Okay.
Anicca is impermanence. Dukkha is the unsatisfactoriness of all. And anatta is not self, or all things are not yourself. So he says in verse 1 of that poem, it's how to battle the 3 characteristics. And he says verse 2 is showing that death is impotent against life. And he says verse 3 is the solution, and which is how that you must accept things as they are in order to turn to true progress on the path. So taking the oath to persevere again through these adversities of, not self, unsatisfactoriness, and impermanence. And how we just don't like that, you know?
No. I can't think of anything I like less than those 3 things.
Exactly. There's something to it. Pretty cool.
So
that's the footnote in Book of Thoth to this card. It leads you to the Book of Lies.
Leads you right to that poem.
So, there's just this little cryptic footnote saying, see Borscht in Book of Lies, and you're like, okay, I'll go see that.
Interesting. It reminds me, when we were talking about in the 10 of Cups, Kaput calls that decan a cup of blood. And again, that sort of ties in again with that idea of the menstrual cycle, and whether, the release of the blood is an act of, of renewal, or an active waste, and
Right.
those two interpretations.
Yeah, fertility unfulfilled or something.
Yeah. Anyway, so if you thought it was a nice card about female power, it's more complicated.
Yes.
And
speaking of borscht, we can do the colors.
Oh,
because one of them is a red, violet, crimson.
Oh,
very much the color
there we go.
of
Yes.
borscht. So that color in itself is I find very interesting, because if you think about the color scales, so that's the king scale color. We're now at the very end of the signs.
Sure.
And we're back to red again. It's like the ultraviolet, red-violet kind of wave. So we started at red, and now we're ending at red, and the cycle's about to start again with pure red in Aries if you started it.
That moment between ultraviolet and infrared.
Yeah, so that's what this color is. I mean, as much as, so it's that crimson red.
Cool.
Violetish red. So that's kind of cool. And then the queen scale color is buff flecked silver, which seems very appropriate for a lunar with the the silver flecks. And then you've got a light translucent pink brown. You see that very much in the Crowley card. And then something called stone. So stone, I'm not sure if they mean a grayish stone or a more reddish stone, but either way you can kind of see it in there.
Yeah. And in the weight card, you don't really have those colors represented so much, although you can kind of pick them out if you look hard. You can.
I don't see any crimson.
I see. Well, there's the
dog is reddish,
and the lobster is sort of boiled looking.
I like what Duquette says, something about when he looks at this card, he starts thinking about melted butter, and when he looks at Waite's card.
Oh my God, I'm dying for a lobster roll.
He's a Cancer, so yeah, he's a foodie probably.
Wow, yeah. Well, you certainly have the stone in the towers.
Yeah, the stone.
There, yeah. Interesting. So one thing we didn't talk about in terms of numerical references, we talked about the 32, the 15, the 9, but we didn't also talk about the connection with the hermit, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah, because 18 reducing to 9.
18 reducing to 9, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's interesting because, there's this idea. Well, first of all, it's you can see the mountains in the back of the moon card on the weight.
And the hermit
card.
being the opposite sign of Virgo, which is
Pisces,
opposite to Pisces, so same axis.
Venus in her fall in Virgo and her exaltation in Pisces.
The loaves and fishes again.
Loaves and fishes,
right.
yeah, exactly.
Yep. And the hermit being the yod, that's, not only are there yods in the card, but the whole yod kind of being a spark of light and the secret seed, and it makes me think of that dot in the center of the sun glyph,
And this idea that, if you're renewing your fertility, there's a partnership with the secret seed, that needs to, the egg that must grow again.
Yep.
Or be released. Yeah, and I like the way in your hermit card, you have him entering the underworld. So, on the weight card, we have these mountains and the hermit's on a mountain. That could be sort of a connection there. But there's also this idea that the hermit is going beneath the earth in the same way that the sun goes beneath the earth, in that solar mystery.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's carrying the
lantern. He's carrying
carrying the sun in his lantern.
Right. Yeah, and who knows, and it's almost as though he has to go through that darkness to attain his wisdom.
I think also going back to the Book of Lies borscht thing for homework, if anyone wants to read in that book, there are a couple more chapters that they aren't mentioned directly in the Book of Thoth itself, but when you look at that borscht commentary, it also mentions a couple other chapters in the Book of Lies that relate to the moon card, which are one called the stag beetle,
okay, of course,
beetle reference, and then one called dewdrops. So if anyone wants any extra homework, you can seek those out.
Yeah, so all the fluids. We don't have any alchemy in this card, do we? I haven't seen any alchemical references, which is odd, other than the Mercury glyph in the Thoth card, which is more of an astrological reference, I think. All right. Oh, can we talk about dogs and hounds and jackals and Anubis and all that? Because that's a big theme
in one
here.
it's the dog and the dog and the wolf, I guess, in the weight card.
Yeah, and I think there's that idea of the tamed versus the untamed,
right?
you know?
So the conscious versus the unconscious forces, kind of. I don't know if they're in agreement or at war with each other. It's kind of hard to tell what's going on, but one's howling at the moon, the other looks like he's baring his teeth.
Yeah, I think the dog is like going back to his roots here, meeting up with his long-lost cousin.
Right. And then, in the other card, in the Thoth card, you've got the either Set and Anubis or Wepwawet and Anubis. That's I think I prefer the Wepwawet and Anubis because that just makes sense to me with the
I like that.
the passage of the sun. But I could also see it could be a Set figure as well.
And just thinking about the Anubis figure with this card is interesting because Anubis was a psychopomp, a guide through the worlds, through the underworld.
Right, in the pyramid text, the jackal on his mountain by the lake is referred to, that the soul meets on the journey.
And then also, I don't know whether it's a coincidence or what, but dogs are also associated with Artemis.
Yeah,
the goddess of the moon, right? Because the huntress goddess,
and also associated with Hecate, another moon goddess, and more of the dark moon type of goddess.
Yeah, it's interesting that we have this this idea of dogs is so curious because you think of cats as being more of a lunar animal.
Really? I think of cats as solar. Yeah.
Oh, well, because of the Egyptian connection. Yeah.
But I see what you mean too, because you think of the witch with her black cat familiar, and that seems more lunar than solar.
Right. Interestingly, the card I drew today, the 10 of discs, I drew it from the Animal Totem Tarot, and it was just curious because their animal totem for that card is the rabbit, which is the
rabbit of the moon,
the rabbit of the moon reference. Yeah, and then of course there's always
the rabbit seems far too timid to be the moon to me, though. But I get where they're going with that.
Well, there's the fertility aspect,
right? Right, although is this really a card of fertility is the question.
Is it? Is it a card of fertility?
It seems like it's more like the card of a question of, will there be fertility? Has the light gone away forever? Will it be reborn? That kind of like danger of getting lost and forgetting the way to rebirth.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because both the sun and the moon have that paradox of fertility versus barrenness, right?
Right.
You know, because the moon has that like fertility because it's associated with the cycle
of women,
the cycle of women, but also because it's specifically associated with the end of that cycle, and the sun has its fertility as the nurturer of life, the thing without which we all die, but also you have too much of it, and you don't got beans. So interesting. Well, we'll get to that when we get to the sun card, but the sun's actual double attribute is fertility and barrenness, I believe.
I like the little poems in the back of Book of Thoth, and the one on this card says, "Let the illusion of the world pass over thee unheeded as thou goest from the midnight to the morning."
That's beautiful.
It is. I love those little poems. They're at the back of the book, and there's one for each of the majors.
Oh, that's great. I have the PDF, but I've never sort of explored the end of it. I love that, the illusion of the world pass unheeded, because we associate this card with illusions of the mind and dreams and fantasies, but that makes a larger connection to the idea that everything's an illusion.
Right.
Okay. Have we got anything else? I crossed pretty much everything off this list, I think.
Yeah. The only thing I don't think we really specifically mentioned was the path itself being from Malkut to Netzach.
Yeah, that's true. We should think about that a little bit.
So that's, Venus and the Earth, two very feminine
or
things,
Venus,
I guess.
Wait, isn't it Oh, yes, yeah, you're
Saturn
right.
and Earth.
Yeah.
Saturn or Earth.
Yeah.
Binah,
Saturn or
Malkuth.
Earth. And it's, I've been thinking so much about these sort of Venus-Saturn connections because there seem to be a lot of them throughout the majors. They have
so this one's on the
interesting
path
tension.
of Venus, Saturn, or Venus,
Or
Earth.
Venus, Earth. And again, Venus exaltation in Pisces.
The body of, the Malkuth, the body, and Netzach as desire. So again, that speaks to that, kind of illusory. A lot of illusions are either from fear or desire, or fear you won't get what you desire.
Well, and also I think there's this idea of the moon as a creator of fantasies, but necessary fantasies. Like the thing about the Venus and Netzach connection is that it's not just about Venus as a goddess of love, affection, nice things, harmony, beauty, but also Netzach in general, I think, has this idea of endurance, of the victory that comes with enduring through time and persevering. Like, and I almost feel like without that element of illusion, Venus can't draw people together to create the next generation in Malkuth.
Right, attracting to you what you need.
Yeah. There's a
and
magic and a glamour
of sorting the wheat from the chaff,
right?
If you will.
Right. I mean, I think that we all need our dreams and mysteries to survive.
Yeah. Someone once, when I first did the Rosetta deck, asked an interview question, something like, "Well, which card do you think is the most important to explore?" And I think I said the moon, but at your peril.
Yeah.
How splendid is the adventure.
How splendid is the adventure. It's an amazing card. So much going on. All right. Smells. Yeah, we've got smells and notes. So the moon's a funny one. The traditional fragrance associated with the moon is ambergris, which literally means gray amber. And I've never seen any ambergris, but it is, as you said,
whale vomit.
Whale vomit, exactly. It washes up on shore. It's gray and I think kind of greasy, waxy, hard, and disgusting.
If you happen to find a lump of it, it's
amazingly
incredible amounts of money.
Yes.
Incredible.
Yes, it is.
Like I heard something like a guy found a chunk of it washed up on a beach that was worth $100,000.
At least, because it's so rare and it's in its natural raw state, apparently super stinky, really gross.
Doesn't actually smell good.
Doesn't actually smell. Like a lot of the things in perfume are not things you just want around. You just want one drop to create the effect.
The magic.
The magic exactly.
Stink.
I do not have, needless to say, any true ambergris, but I do have, and you may want to think twice about smelling this because of your sensitivity to synthetics. I have ambroxan, which is what
very quick
most people use. It's very faint, actually. It's not very strong.
Curiosity killed the cat, as they say. I have to smell it anyway.
Yeah. It's an enveloping sort of smell, but not aggressive in this version. And, we talked a lot about amber in previous fragrance talks because it's...
is that the same thing, though?
Well,
amber and ambergris?
The idea is that an amber perfume is based on a number of different smells, and ambergris was supposed to be one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, although nowadays, I think, first of all, you're going to be using ambroxan, but also people use the resins, labdanum, benzoin. There's a couple of others as well. But anyway, but ambergris is interesting and it seems particularly appropriate for this card because it's it's not just anybody's vomit.
Right.
It's whale vomit, so it comes from the sea.
Mammal in the world.
Yeah, and
the keeper of history, the whale.
Yeah, the great marine mammal. And there's also that idea of...
you ever see a whale up close, like on a boat or anything?
No.
Wow,
Their
I
would love
eyes,
to.
Just their eyes, they're like you can see why they're lunar.
Yeah. Yeah, and also the idea, there's something very appealing to me about the idea that ambergris is a kind of excrement and very precious at the same time. Seems very appropriate for this card
For the
somehow.
moon, yeah, it does. And Pisces and the end of a cycle. And,
right.
yeah.
Right. Now, the other thing that's associated with this is violet, interestingly
Oh,
enough.
yeah. Violet's lunar.
Violet's lunar. The color is lunar. Again, another synthetic. This one, you definitely... I think you might want to just smell it with the cap on because it's pretty strong. Yeah. Yeah. And it's Ionone beta, which is a synthetic which is usually used for violets these days. And I read somewhere that the violet is considered a talismanic fragrance in a way, or an amulet kind of fragrance. It wards off witchcraft. It protects and neutralizes.
You know what's really cool about violets?
What?
Like the actual flowers, violets. I make both violet wine and violet cordials.
Yeah.
And, you see the violet flowers, it's that pretty purple color. Mm-hmm. But then if you boil them in water or soak them in alcohol, it's the most brilliant blue-green that you've ever seen. It's absolutely stunning, almost cobalt, but more greenish blue.
Wow.
Beautiful. And so
Yeah.
I make this drink, and it's that color blue. But you can't drink it that way because it's not... It lacks any acidity for balance. And so what you do is you add some either lemon or lime to it to bring up the acidity, so it's not just sweet. And then it turns it purple again. Exactly. So it's like a natural litmus paper.
test.
So
Yeah.
what I like to do sometimes is I make it blue just so I can see it look pretty in the glass, and then I add a squeeze of lime to it and watch it turn colors before my eyes, and then I drink it, and it goes from blue green to pink purple.
That's
and
cool.
It's like a magical transformation, and that seems very lunar and Neptunian and all that.
Yeah, that's great. We should do that sometime. That's amazing. I totally am into it. All right. And the only other thing left is the musical notes. So this is interesting because we have gone all the way to the end of the color scale.
Yeah.
We're at red, violet, ultraviolet, infrared. And so that's the last note.
So it's a dog whistle.
It's a dog. If you can't hear me singing, that's because you're not a dog.
Dogs will start howling, though.
No, so the idea here is that, okay, we're at the end of the scale, so we've come back to the last note before C, which is B natural. That is the note associated with the moon. And you know what? It might be the only one that's associated with B natural. I can't think of any other card that's associated with B natural.
I can't remember any so far.
I can't remember any. And, we're almost at the end of our journey, really, through the majors. So anyway, that's what that is. So we've gone through a lot of different themes. I think it's been a great card to talk about. And we've talked about the many paradoxes and contradictions and, sort of cultural discomfort with femininity in many ways with this card. We've talked about, on the one hand, it's being a card of sort of animal instincts and witchcraft and darkness. And on the other hand, a card of birth and changeability and flux and reflux. There's so much in here.
Right. The journey of the sun.
The journey of the sun.
Midnight
Exactly.
sun.
Yeah.
The resurrection of the sun.
The world of dreams and fantasies.
The path perilous.
Yes. The splendid adventure.
Yes.
So thank you for going with us on this moonlit journey, and we will be back next time with the sun. So get your sunglasses and your parasols.